And we're back in the car like we never left. Welcome to the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your somewhat nice, still a little bit chilly, Tuesday, late afternoon, early evening here with me in New York. But once again, we're going to skip past all that promotional jazz and get right to the guts of the episode. Today will be the newest entry in our continuing series of the great movies. And this is a film that I saw on its opening night. It drew widespread acclaim from critics across the board, raves for its lead actor's performance and some of the supporting actors and actresses, quite funny performances. And it should have been nominated for some Oscars and wasn't. And its lead actor probably should have gotten an Oscar nomination at the very least and didn't. But them's the breaks in Hollywood. The film was a significant box office hit and is well remembered by history. But I feel like it still is a little bit underrated, that it's not quite as revered as it absolutely should be. The movie is Barry Sonnenfeld's 1995 adaptation of Elmore Leonard's best-selling novel, Get Shorty. And my father was an Elmore Leonard fan. The thing with Elmore Leonard that I understood, the famous New York sports writer Mike Lupica was like the biggest Elmore Leonard fan in history. And people who loved Elmore Leonard, it was almost a cult that he was that good, and fans would wait with breathless anticipation for his newest work. And Lupica talked about him all the time in his Shooting from the Lip column when Elmore Leonard was still working and when he was still with us. Get Shorty was a book my dad liked, but it wasn't really that memorable. Same with Maximum Bob. He loved the movie. He thought the movie ran circles around the book. The film takes a very kind of novelistic approach where there are multiple threads of plot taking place at the same time. But Sonnenfeld's skill as a director is such that we never lose sight of anything. And the main character in the book and in the world of the movie is Ernesto Palmer, but he goes by Chili. And that is the character played just magnificently by John Travolta. And John Travolta, by any metric, is one of the great stars in the history of cinema. He is a terrific, resourceful actor. He can be funny. He can be serious. He can play terrifying. He's just one of those special people who can do it all. But I will say the single best performance he has ever given is the performance he gives in the film Get Shorty. He is a commanding screen presence. He's a commanding screen presence in general. But in the world of this film, Chili Palmer is basically an alpha male. He's a gangster. He's kind of an enforcer. Although he wants to do something else, he doesn't really want to be a gangster forever. But Travolta, in every scene in this film, it feels like we're watching this quite unique character, Chili Palmer. And we could imagine somebody like this. Of course, a guy like this would exist. This isn't really that out there. My mom's father, who supposedly was a driver for Meyer Lansky and the Jewish mob in the first quarter of the 20th century. Well, first third, we'll put it that way. He did more than drive. He was a collector. The earliest picture I've ever seen of him is a mugshot. Do we really think that he just drove? I don't think so. I don't think they just rough up guys who happen to be driving cars in the first third of the 20th century. But in the world of this film, Chili Palmer works for a Miami crime outfit headed by a guy named Momo. And in an unbelievable opening sequence, which goes on way longer than most opening pre-credits sequences in, this may be the longest pre-credits sequence in any film I'm familiar with. Momo, spoiler alert, kicks the bucket. And it's not really a spoiler because there'd be no movie if Momo didn't kick the bucket. And that makes a bunch of people who worked under him, including Chili Palmer, but also, very important, Dennis Farina, the late, great leap year baby himself, who was one of the great villains in the history of cinema as Jimmy Serrano in the single best buddy film ever made, Midnight Run, with Bobby D and Charles Grodin. Well, he plays a similar kind of character in this film called Ray Barboni, or Ray Bones, if you prefer. The nicknames are just epic in this film. He's not quite as horrendous as Jimmy Serrano, but he's in the same like zip code or area code as Jimmy Serrano. He wants Chili Palmer to work for him. Chili Palmer basically says, go fuck yourself. Ray Bones tries to kill Chili. Chili puts one and almost scalps him with a bullet. And then the story goes from there that Chili Palmer kind of leaves Miami following a lead of a guy who kind of stole some money from the mob and then ran it up in Vegas. And lo and behold, Chili Palmer ends up in Hollywood and decides, you know what? I don't think I want to be a mobster anymore. I think I want to get into the movie business. And there are a lot of films that deal with Hollywood in some way, in some form or fashion. But this film, it felt more like satire than it does now. For example, you have Danny DeVito. He's the title character, obviously, Get Shorty, but it's not Get Shorty like in a Pulp Fiction way, a film that this has often been compared to, Kill Him. The Get Shorty of the title is they're trying to get the biggest star in Hollywood, 2-time Academy Award winner Martin Weir, to star in this movie that they're trying to make, that Travolta is part of, apparently, called Mr. Lovejoy. And they want Martin Weir. But Delroy Lindo, who has a piece of the action, he wants in. And basically, what this film seems to suggest is that the mob might be bad. Dealing with gangsters every day might be a life-threatening proposition. But the movie business is infinitely worse. And there is a moment in this film where Delroy Lindo and his bodyguard, played by none other than another late great actor, Tony Soprano himself, James Gandolfini, in the kind of role that established that this was a major talent. James Gandolfini, in a number of movies before The Sopranos, he basically stood up and waved and said, I'm not like everybody else. Gandolfini is incredible in True Romance, the fight scene with Patricia Arquette. He's the best thing about, and I love Gina Davis, but the movie Angie, thumbs down, not good. He's the best thing in that movie. He's really good with Denzel in the movie Fallen. I mean, Gandolfini was knocking it out of the park, but he is magnificent in Get Shorty. He plays Delroy Lindo's bodyguard, which means he's going to do what Delroy tells him to do. But he's a stuntman. He's a guy who works in movies, and Travolta recognizes him. And the relationship between those two guys, there's not supposed to be a relationship. When Delroy Lindo he goes by Bear, another great nickname in the film, Gandolfini is supposed to beat the shit out of Travolta on command. The problem is Travolta, in the world of this movie, is presented as, he's kind of Clint Eastwood in Heartbreak Ridge 9 years earlier, where, well, in the case of that film, Clint looks like a guy who could stuff you into a garbage can. But Clint's Tom Highway in that movie is presented as a guy who can outfight any man alive. You know, Conor McGregor, no problem. Take him right down. It's a kind of heightened reality. The Chili Palmer in this film doesn't need more than 3 seconds to disable anybody who goes to attack him. So the James Gandolfini character, by way of Delroy Lindo, he does not want Chili Palmer in the movie business. Just stay the fuck away. You don't want to work with me? Get the fuck out. Go back to Miami. Well, Chili's not going back to Miami. And as he puts it, after he not only disables Gandolfini's character, but threatens to mop the floor with Delroy Lindo's character, he takes a seat and he goes, man, the movie business is rough. I got to get back to loan sharking and take a rest. And he's not exaggerating by very much. So you have so many recognizable faces, so many A-listers from the era and beyond. Renee Russo is a scream. She plays a scream queen in the film, sort of a Linnea Quigley. If you're under 40, you probably don't know who that is, but she's playing a successful actress who mostly makes movies where she does a lot of yelling and screaming, and she's attacked by, Texas chainsaw wielding type guy or type situation. Renee Russo is great. Farina is a scream. Gene Hackman, who also recently passed, is hysterical as Harry Zim. He's a sort of a schlock producer. He's the person that Travolta's Chili Palmer knows he needs to contact because the guy that he's tracking down did some business with him. And Gene Hackman in this film, the character he plays is very similar to the character that Steve Martin, well, Martin wrote the script, plays in Bowfinger. He's that level. Actually, Harry Zim is more successful, or has been more successful than Bobby Bowfinger of Bowfinger International Pictures. He's got a couple of grade Z credits and nothing else. Harry Zim has mostly made shitty movies, but he's at least somewhat known in Hollywood. Gene Hackman was not known for comedy. He's funny in the sort of cameo that he does in Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein. That's maybe the highlight of the film. But Get Shorty, it shows that Gene could do more than the kind of laughs he gets in an often vicious way in the Superman films with Christopher Reeve in the 70s and 80s. But he takes this character of Harry Zim that could easily be a throwaway character. It could be a thankless role, and he makes it sing because he's Gene fucking Hackman. And Gene was just knocking out one great performance. I mean, really his whole career. But you look at what he did just in the decade of the 90s, right? Narrow Margin with Ann Archer and James B. Sicking, not a guy that you would ever expect to be an intimidating actor. Not a great movie, but Gene is great, and the film is super entertaining. Class Action with Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, also not a great movie, but it's very entertaining. Father-daughter are both lawyers. They go up against each other in court. Boy, I don't want to be at Thanksgiving dinner. There's like a thing from My Cousin Vinny, now I can understand the hostility, like that kind of a moment. And Gene did, the movie Geronimo. Then he did Wyatt Earp. He did Wyatt Earp with Costner and Dennis Quaid. Quick and the Dead, also in 1995, where he basically plays the villain. I forgot Unforgiven, where he won the Oscar. He was so busy. I mean, just going through it now, did the guy ever take a day off? Fucking crazy. So with all of these amazing actors, you have Travolta at the center, dominating throughout. And his through line, we understand pretty early. Yeah, he wants to get into the movie business, but he does not want to go back to being a gangster. He is someone who is a lifelong movie fan. He's very intelligent. So he's very intelligent, but he doesn't show people that he's necessarily very intelligent. And comparison can easily be made with Charlie Partana, Jack Nicholson's character in the film Prizzi's Honor, which is also a mob movie, although that's more of a Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of mob movie, because Kathleen Turner and Jack Nicholson basically play mob and mafia hit people who end up getting together. And it was directed by John Huston, and his daughter Angelica, who was Jack's girlfriend at the time. She ended up walking away with the Best Supporting Actress Oscar. But John Travolta's Chili Palmer is not only intelligent, smarter than you would think, but he is an encyclopedia when it comes to movies. He's Google before Google. And so the irony is, he probably would make a good movie producer because he has a movie reference for everything. That was John Wayne in El Dorado. No. Chili corrects him. It was Rio Bravo. And throughout the film, it's littered with these movie references. And there's a fantastic scene when Rene Russo starts to, her character of, Karen Flores. Wow, almost forgot the name of her character. When she is starting to be charmed by Chili Palmer, when she realizes there's more to this guy than he's just like a tough talking, literal wise guy. She sees him watching Orson Welles' Touch of Evil. Anybody who would be a fan of that film or would seek it out at a revival as his character has is the kind of person that Karen Flores wants to be around and probably be with. And so, not surprisingly, there is a romance angle in the film. And I feel like Travolta had really good chemistry with Rene Russo. But you think about from her perspective, the big hitters that she worked with didn't always get together with them. But Mel Gibson in the Lethal Weapon series, parts 3 and 4, Clint Eastwood in The Line of Fire, which I absolutely believe is her best performance that she ever gave in a movie. She's fantastic. Dustin Hoffman in Outbreak, Tom Berenger in Major League, almost forgot about him. So she was just, and she also did Jim Belushi. She did Jim Belushi's character in the movie Mr. Destiny. Really not that good. But there are so many different components of this plot, but we just don't lose sight of who's trying to do what is this character's ultimate goal? What is that character's ultimate goal? Film has such a breezy and fluid storytelling style that to me, Everything is logical. Everything makes sense. And you kind of ask yourself, how's Chili Palmer how can he win? This is one of those stories where it appears that he has a lot of dead ends in front of him and to the side. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to die, but it doesn't seem as if the dominoes are going to fall in his favor. He's probably going to need a little bit of luck and a lot of moxie, which we know that he has in spades. This film, it could be called a comic thriller, although I don't really think that it's a thriller, but it has elements of the thriller. But its primary function is to make the audience laugh. There are some moments a la Pulp Fiction where brutal violence takes place, but we're still laughing. So it has that in common. But Pulp Fiction, on balance, is a much more serious and grimier, grittier, dirtier film. Get Shorty is light and frothy. But just because it's light and frothy and there are laughs around every corner, doesn't mean that this isn't a great film. I put this movie at 9 or 9.5 out of 10. It's not Pulp Fiction, but for me, it's on the second tier of great films from the decade. And 1995 is by far the weakest year of that incredible decade, the greatest decade Hollywood's ever had. I'll go down on that hill and I'll argue anybody on that one. I might not win, but I'll make the argument nevertheless. But 95, they're good movies, but no Best Picture nominee for Get Shorty, no Best Picture, nomination for Heat, and no Best Director nomination for Ron Howard. Seriously? That never made any sense to me. But Get Shorty builds to a surprisingly intense climax where there are things that we think we know, but we don't, and expectations we have which end up not playing out as we think they will. And without spoiling it, there is a cameo from a guy that I mentioned yesterday, Harvey Keitel. And just to kind of talk about this, when Harvey Keitel showed up in the movie, it's at the very end, and I'm not going to give away any more because I'll be giving too much away, but just the fact that he shows up is not really that much of a spoiler. When Harvey Keitel, it's a shot where he turns around to face the camera. It was a packed crowd. Dad and I saw it at the Broadway Mall. There was not a seat in the house that was empty. And my sense was everyone laughed at the right moments. We were into the story. I feel like everyone in the theater that night enjoyed the film. That is very, very rare. But there is a moment, and it's Harvey Keitel's cameo, where we don't know that it's him. And he suddenly turns around to the camera and says the line, I apologize for what I'm about to say, "Fuck you, fuckball." And I'll tell you, when Harvey Keitel goes, "Fuck you, fuckball," it may be the loudest single laugh, and a lot of screams when people realized, holy shit, it's Harvey Keitel. That was an unbelievable audience participation moment. Because I didn't know he was in it. Nowadays, we know, well, cameo, this guy's in it, that, she's in it, he's in it. Bette Midler's in this movie. I wasn't expecting to see that. The audience went wild when we realized that Bette Midler was about to have sex with Gene Hackman's Harry Zim. Come on, Harry. And of course, she chews the scenery like William Shatner and James Woods on their best days. But Get Shorty it's effortlessly, compulsively rewatchable. This is a film because it has so many good parts. It has so many memorable lines of dialogue and incredible scenes. I've seen the movie at least 10 times, and I know other people. It was one of my father's favorites. My sister has seen it multiple times. It is just, for a film that has a lot of violence, it's so much fun, and it is so easy to settle in and just let the film work on you again. And Barry Sonnenfeld did the first Men in Black. Actually, he did all the Men in Black films, if memory serves. This is his best movie. I love Men in Black. Get Shorty is the best film that Sonnenfeld ever made. He is just, the direction is so on point. It's absolutely perfect. You can't pace it any better. And he got he got maximum bang for the buck. Every cast member, every major, even, was it Pablo Sandoval? He's great. Everybody brings their A game Martin Ferrer, who had previously played Gennaro in Jurassic Park. You know, he ran to the crapper. When you gotta go, you gotta go. Same guy. He plays Travolta's pal in Miami. It is a ton of fun. This is one of those movies, if you have never seen it, if you are a film fan, this is on the must-see list. There are 100 movies before you. I don't want to say die. 100 movies you must see. How about we do it that way? This is 100% a great movie and a film that you should see. And as we speak, it is streaming free. If you have any kind of an Amazon account, it's streaming free on Amazon Prime. You don't have to pay any extra $2 or $3. You just fire it up on Amazon and you will be entertained entirely for 2 full hours of madcap antics, some really crazy plot twists, but at the center, an extraordinary star turn from the one and only John Travolta. This has been episode 485 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all so much for spending some of your early Tuesday evening here with me in New York. If you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, or the others in which we're hosted, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with a new episode real soon. Till then, peace.